In this webinar, we will go over completing the FAFSA and the California DREAM Acts. We will cover a few different topics. We'll go when you should be applying for financial aid, which financial aid application you should file, how to complete the FAFSA, how to complete the California DREAM Act, and more information on how to contact our office should you need additional assistance. Okay, to start off, when should you apply for financial aid? To apply for federal, state, institutional financial aid, you do have to submit your application every academic year. The financial aid applications do open on October 1st, and we have a priority deadline of March 2nd. While there's no hard deadline, we do encourage students to submit the application by March 2nd so they can receive their financial aid in a timely manner. Which financial aid application should you file? There is the federal application, so the FAFSA. People who need to file this application would be U.S. citizens, permanent residents, and eligible non-citizens. If you are an undocumented individual, a DACA recipient, a TPS holder with California residency, or a U visa holder, you should file the California DREAM Acts. If you're an undocumented individual without a state residency, then you would go ahead and submit the CSS profile via the College Board. And then just some quick notes on the FAFSA and the California DREAM Act. Both the FAFSA and the California DREAM Act will request tax and income information from 2 years prior to the application to determine your financial aid eligibility. For example, for the 2023-2024 academic year, you would be filling out the FAFSA and the California DREAM Act with 2021 income information, and so on. The FAFSA and the California DREAM Act both use skip logic to display questions that are applicable and relevant to you. If you are eligible to complete a FAFSA and meet the FAFSA filing guidelines, then you do not need to file a California DREAM Act application. If you need tips on how to answer specific questions or are unsure of the question or what the question is asking you, there is a little question mark next to the FAFSA or the California DREAM Act on each question that will guide you on where you can find the information that they are requesting. So this section is completely dedicated to the FAFSA. There are a few different ways that you can submit the FAFSA application. The most popular and the way that we recommend is completing out the electronic form via fafsa.gov. If you scan the little QR code to the side, it will take you to complete the FAFSA online. You can mail in the application if you download the PDF from the Department of Ed's websites. And in some cases, the university can submit your FAFSA if you are unable to do so via online or via a mail-in application. Before you get started on filling out the FAFSA, there are a couple of things that you will need from yourself and your parents if you are an undergraduate dependent students. You will need your social security number, your parents' social security number, your alien registration number, or a number if you are not a U.S. citizen. You will also need your federal income tax returns, W-2s, and any other record of money earned. You'll need bank statements and records of investments if applicable, as well as any records of untaxed income. And as always, you will need your federal student aid ID or your FSA ID to log into the application. So a little bit more on the FSA ID. The FSA ID is your username that you must create to sign into and electronically sign your FAFSA. Your parent, if applicable, will also need to create an FSA ID. The FSA ID is tied to your personal identifying information, such as your social security number, your date of birth, and your legal name. You will also need a mobile number, an email, or a challenge question to reset your password if you forget it. And then you do not need to create a new FSA ID if you have already created one in the past. If you don't remember your FSA ID, you can always click Forgot Login Information for more information. So to start the FAFSA, you want to make sure that you are logged under your FSA ID. And then you want to select the application for the correct academic year. The FAFSA will always have 2 academic years online that a student can complete it. You want to make sure that you are selecting the one that applies to you depending on when your start time at the university is, or if you're renewing your application for the following academic year, you would simply click Returning User. So the first part of the FAFSA is the student demographics section. You want to fill out the information as it is on your Social Security card or your permanent residency card. Other information required on the student demographics section will include contact information, your residency, as well as the high school that you attended. To be eligible for federal student aid, you must have completed high school or its equivalent. When you get to the school selection, you want to go ahead and enter the University of San Francisco school code, which is 001325. And then you would just add the school to the list of schools that you want to send your application to. Without a school code on the FAFSA, the university will not receive your application. The next part for the school selection is the housing information. So it'll ask you what your housing plans for that particular university is. What you select on the FAFSA directly impacts your cost of attendance. And now we'll go over into dependency status. So if you answer no to any of the following questions, you are considered a dependent student and will be required to provide parent information. If you answer yes, you may be considered an independent student. Some of these questions may trigger more information to be submitted to the institution. So the questions are, if you're currently on active duty in the U.S. Armed Forces for purposes other than training, are you a veteran of the United States Armed Forces? At any time since you turned 13, were both of your parents deceased? Were you in foster care, or were you a ward or dependent of the courts? Are you an emancipated minor, or are you in a legal guardianship as determined by a court? Are you an accompanied youth who is homeless or self-supporting and at risk of being homeless? If you answered no, it'll prompt this question, and you'll have to provide information about your parents. If you are unable to provide information about your parents, your FAFSA will be considered incomplete, and additional information will need to be provided to the institution. Now, whose information should you provide? Based on your selection, it'll ask you to provide either both parent information or one parent information. If you are adopted, you do not have to provide parent information. So for your parents, it'll ask you to include their name, their date of birth, and their social security number, their marital status, and some household information. If your parent does not have a social security number, you would input 8 zeros. Okay, once you're in the parent demographic section, it'll ask you more about the number of your household and then how many people in your household are attending college. Be sure that you do include any siblings that are attending college, but not your parents. Your parents would not be considered in the number of college for the households. Once the parent demographic section is all filled out, it will now go into parent financials. So you will need your tax information. So they will need to provide you with a copy of the tax return transcript, W-2 information, so you can fill out this next portion. If your parent is eligible for the IRS data retrieval tool, we do recommend that they use it, as it'll automatically fill in all the information required on the FAFSA directly from the IRS. Not all statuses are available for the IRS data retrieval tool. In those cases, you will need to have the physical documents to help you answer the tax questions. After the the income information is all filled in, it'll move on to the asset portion of the parent financial section. Not all students may be provided with the asset information. Like we said, The FAFSA and the California DREAM Act both use skip logic, so asset information may only be required in certain circumstances. If you do have to fill out the asset information, you would have to include cash, savings, and checkings, investments, as well as any current business or investment farms. After the parent financial section is completed, we'll move on to the student financial section. If you, the students, earned income and filed taxes, you may be required to provide more information. If you earned income but did not file taxes, then you would indicate that you will not file and then provide the income that you earn based on your wage and income tax transcript or your W-2s. If you did file taxes, you also have the option of using the IRS data retrieval tool if it's available for you. If not, you would have to fill out the information manually. Depending on your tax information, assets may be required to be reported. Once you finish the student financial section of the FAFSA, you'll have to go ahead and sign and submit your FAFSA. As the students, you can use your FSA ID to electronically sign the FAFSA. Before you do so, you do want to review the FAFSA summary, make sure that all the questions are answered correctly and accurately. If not, you can go back into that section and make any corrections as needed. So once you sign the FAFSA, you have the option to do so electronically with your FSA, print of signature sheets, or submit without signatures. If you submit a FAFSA without any signatures, the FAFSA is considered incomplete and you will not be eligible to receive financial aid until the signatures are submitted and processed successfully. If you choose not to use your FSA ID to electronically sign your FAFSA, it may take a couple of weeks for the signature page to be processed by the Department of Education. After you sign the FAFSA, it does require a parent signature, and it must be a parent that is listed on the FAFSA. If your parent is eligible to create an FSA ID, they can go ahead and use their FSA ID to electronically sign the FAFSA. If they are unable to create an FSA ID, then you would have to sign and submit the FAFSA via a paper form. If you click on other options to sign and submit, the paper form will be presented along with the mailing address that you must send the FAFSA to. Once signed and submitted, you'll receive a congratulations confirmation page. If your parents had to use the paper form to submit the FAFSA, you'll still receive a congratulations message that you have submitted the FAFSA. However, until the Department of Education receives that signature page, the FAFSA will not be processed successfully. Once they do receive that signature page, they will send you an email letting you know that your application has been processed successfully. Now, this next section, we're going to go over on how to complete the California DREAM Act. So to apply for the California DREAM Act, if you are an eligible student, then you can go ahead and submit your application online by creating a user ID. If you already created a user ID, then you can simply use it to renew your application. And if you forgot your user ID, you can use the email address that you used to reset your password. You can use this little QR code and it will take you to the California Student Aid Commission site to complete the California DREAM Act. So just a little note on California DREAM Act and federal aid. Students who submit the California DREAM Act are not eligible for federal financial aid, including the federal Pell Grants, federal supplemental educational opportunity grants, federal student loans, and the Parent Plus loan. However, you can still qualify for institutional, state, and external financial aid. So we do recommend, if you're eligible to submit the California DREAM Act, that you do so as well. And another side note, state aid is limited to undergraduate students. Graduate students are typically not eligible for state financial aid, with the exception of 1 or 2 programs as determined by the commission. So to start the California DREAM Act, you want to go ahead and sign in using that username and password that you created. And the California DREAM Act mimics a little bit of what the FAFSA does. So it does have a student demographics section, a parent demographics, and then financial information for both the students and the parents. So you want to make sure that you fill out your application the same way it was filled out when you apply to USF and what your current USF information is. The California Dream Act, if you have a social security number, you want to go ahead and use that social security number. If you do not have a social security number, you can utilize your ITIN number as well. But they are optional, so it's not required. Okay, so under the student demographics section, you want to make sure that you answer all the questions correctly because these questions help establish your state's financial aid eligibility. Under school selection, you can also use the school code 00132500 to add USF to your application. So for the California Dream Act, it does also have dependency questions similar to the FAFSA. So if you will be 24 or older by January 1st of the school year for which you are applying for financial aid, if you are married or separated but not divorced, as well as will you be working on a master's or doctorate's degree, do you have children who receive more than half of their support from you? Do you have dependents other than a children or spouse who live with you and receive more than half of their support from you? Are you currently serving on active duty in the U.S. Armed Forces for purposes under their training? Are you a veteran of the U.S. Armed Forces? At any time since you turned 13, were both of your parents deceased? Were you in foster care or were you a ward or dependent of the courts? Are you emancipated minor or are you in a legal guardianship as determined by a court? Or are you an accompanied youth who is homeless or self-supporting and at risk of being homeless? If you answer yes to any of these questions, you are considered an independent student and will not need to provide parental information. If you answered no to all of these questions, you are considered a dependent student and must provide parent information on your application for the application to be complete. If you are or were a foster care student, you want to make sure that you answer the question correctly, as it may allow you to receive a Chafee grant, which is additional financial aid from the states. So after you answer a little bit of the student demographic questions and your dependency questions, you move on to the financial section of the California Dream Act. If you are a tax filer, you must provide your tax and income information as reported on your federal tax return. Regardless of your tax filing status, you will need to report your wage and asset information. If you do not have financial information to report, you can put a 0 or leave the answer blank. Other financial aid information in the student financial section includes any untaxed income sources. After you finish answering your financial information, you move on to the parent demographics section. To complete this section, you'll need some information from your parents, including their marital status, their social security number and ITIN. If they do not have a SSN or ITIN, you want to go ahead and enter all zeros. And then depending on their marital status, information may be requested from one or both parents. It'll then move on to your parent household info. So you want to make sure that you read the questions carefully and include the people in your parents' household. So you want to include yourself in the household, even if you do not live with your parents, your parents' other children, if they will receive at least half of their financial support from their parents, or other people if they now live with them and will continue to provide at least half of their support. So if your parent provides more than half of the support for any other individual living in the household. For the parent financial section, you will need your parents' federal tax return form and schedules, as well as their W-2s. And also, regardless of their tax filing status, you will need to report wage and asset information. If your parent does not have any additional information to report, you can also put a 0 or leave the answer blank. And it will also ask you some more information regarding their untaxed income if they have any. Now, to sign your California Dream Act, you can go ahead and electronically do so by writing in your name and then clicking the little box and submitting the application. Your parent will also need to sign the California Dream Acts. Without a parent signature, the FAFSA is, the California Dream Act is considered incomplete. If you select the parent signature button, or if your parent separately submits the parent signature on the California Dream Act homepage, your parent will be directed to the parent signature portal. Your parent will need to create a PIN to sign the Dream Acts. So if your parent does not have a previously created PIN, they must create one, and it'll prompt the instructions on how to create a PIN. And then to electronically sign the Dream Act, similar, they'll be displayed with a little box that they do have to click and agree that they filled out the application to the best of their knowledge, and then submit the signature. If you have any questions on any of the information provided on the FAFSA or the California Dream Act, you may utilize any of these resources for assistance. For the FAFSA, you want to contact the Federal Student Aid. You can contact them by phone. You can also email them or do a live chat. They also have a little help center on their websites with some guides on how certain questions should be answered, or if you need clarification on any question. For the California Dream Act, you want to go ahead and contact the California Student Aid Commission. Their number is provided on the screen. You can also email them at studentsupport@csac.ca.gov, or you can go to their contact information on their websites. If you have any questions or need any clarification, you're also more than welcome to contact the Office of Financial Aid. You can contact us by phone at 415-422-3387. You can also send us an email. You could schedule a phone or Zoom appointment. So we do offer virtual appointments, or you can visit us during any of our walk-in hours. Thank you for watching this webinar. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to our office.